All right, now for project 8, what we've done is we've just basically began breaking down the elements of this website. We've been looking at the templates. So if we go to the W3 schools, we go to the home, we go to the how-to section, and we scroll down to the how to make a website in 2016 right here. And we're looking at this, and we've talked about breaking down the layout. We've got a nav bar, we've got a slideshow, and we're going to get into the rest of it. However, what we're doing right now is we are just looking at the different navigation options, and we're looking at the slideshow. And I showed you the basic navigation bar. We looked at a sidebar example. So we were looking at the different navigations, and we looked at sidebars, and we looked at the slideshow, and I showed you how you could put 2 slideshows in if you want. Now for project 8, we're going to stop right here because this is where I want you to experiment on your own. I want you to try out the different types of navigation possibilities that are out there, and I want you to look at them and try some out. And that means maybe you're going to look at the kind that animate from the sides, and I just want you to push beyond the basics. You can't just turn in your ordinary basic navigation bar or just what we talked about as an example. You have to try to do something else. So I need you to be experimenting. You can use icons, so you can look and see how this works. We're going to talk more about Font Awesome, but this isn't really super complicated. It's stuff that you can do. It's stuff that I want you to be experimenting with, and ultimately I want you to have fun with it. Alright, so here's a drop down. Maybe you want to try out a drop down like this and put that on your page. So the first thing you're going to be doing is just working with a navigation and your slideshow. You're going to create your own slideshow so that you can kind of come up with different kinds. There's different kinds here that you can use. You don't have to use the one that was shown in the template. You can try different slideshows and put something new in. Do something new. Alright? We've used this one, but there are other examples that I want you to look at with buttons and that sort of thing. For example, on my home page, I have an example of a gallery, which I did the exact same thing, and I used my own pictures, and I made the gallery. I expanded it. I didn't just take what was given to me. I added more pictures. They give you an example of something. Changed all this stuff around. So this is kind of, my site is based on a template, but then I take that template and I add my own content and I start to modify it. It gives me some of the things, but not all of it is necessary, and none of it looks like it did when I started, but it all started from the same template. So here's what I'm talking about. So in my example, if I'm experimenting with something, I was thinking, okay, I really liked this dual sidebar thing. I had never seen a dual sidebar. Let me go back to the navigation. And I thought, let me find it. Fixed. So there's fixed. We don't want necessarily a fixed navigation. We want to move around. So we got R, fixed, collapsing navigation. And here's like the sidebar navigation. Well, there is a dual sidebar navigation. So if you go to sidebar, this goes into the sidebar more in depth. You can look at it. So here's basically the single sidebar, and then there's a different type, and then there's another type that's responsive. And when you get down far enough, there's the right side, left side, and then they say dual. So I was like, this is left and right. So I was like, okay, that's kind of neat. Now, I want to learn more about that. So I started thinking, oh, I'll use my Star Wars example, and this was going to link to Star Wars, and I was like, what else can I do? I was like, oh, okay, I'll put Star Trek over here. I'm actually not a huge fan of. I'm more of a Star Wars fan, but it doesn't really matter. The idea is I just needed two themes, and so I'm like, okay. And then I thought, well, what would be cool if I could uh, uh, make these link to my two image galleries? So that was what I started working on. I put this in. I went here. I got the code for it. I put this basic code in. It gives me the functionality all ready to go. So I get this basic element. I add that to my page. And then I start looking at how do I modify it. So for instance, if I wanted to change the color of something, where would I put it? So maybe if I change this to W3 black, and I ran my code, does it change anything? And yeah, so it changed this. So if I wanted to change that color, if I wanted to change I want to start changing things. So if I put black in there, I could change the style. So maybe if I added blue, this could be my Star Trek side. Okay, and I got blue. And then over here, then this was the blue one is on the right menu, and the red one would be like for Sith. So W3 red. I'm going to hit run, and then this turns red. Okay, so I kind of start to figure out where those elements that I want to change would go. So if I want to change like the text color, I can add the text color attribute in here. I'd have to go to W3 and say text yellow. Let's see if I wanted to make uh, the text over here yellow. So now I have more like Sith colors. Okay, so I kind of start to get my basic code ideas laid out. And that's what I did. Now, one of the things that I did is I said I wanted to add sound. So I was like, well, how do you add audio to something? And is that even a possible option? So I went to the search bar and I said audio, and there's an audio tag. Let me see what I got. So for instance, they say audio controls. Source, well, I know how source works. Source is where something is within my folders. So this is in a folder called, and it's a OGG file, and it's called audio. It's an audio type file. Or you could do, well, I'm familiar with MPEG. And so I'm just going to go here, and I'm going to say, so what exactly does it do? If I go over here and press this, it plays a sound. And I'm like, okay, that's really kind of what I want to do. When I press a button, I want to trigger some type of control. And so some type of code that causes this thing to play. So here's the different types, different elements. These are different attributes. And so what I want to do is I want to find something that is like a button that plays a sound. Okay? And so as I go through this, so I was thinking if I go through this and I've got a button, so I said button audio, and I started looking for that. So I'm like, is there an audio tag or some sort of audio play? And I just went to, and I thought, here. So this is what I want. I want a button that plays audio. Well, I've already seen this. There's the audio section, and then here's the file, and then it's an MP3 or an OG. You just need one, so I would get an MP3. Then button, here's the button, the play. So here's the audio tag. So if I said my button, if I run that, it'll change the button code. And then this is a command for a function to play the audio, and then it runs a script down here. So it's playing my audio, which is what I named this source, And so this is the actual code that is going to play something, and the play function is written here. So basically, it gave me the opportunity to maybe make that audio work. So I worked on that, and I added it. Once I was successful, then if I wanted to use it again, I had to change the variable names by just adding a 2 to it or making it more specific. So what I did is I added that to my code. So this is my left and right navigations. So I got a left and right navigation, and I got my audio controls down here. These are the scripts for the left and right nav. But here's where I load my audio. So I wanted a lightsaber, so I went online and found a lightsaber turning on sound effect, and I found a lightsaber turning off sound effect, and it's in my folder over here. So here's my audio file, and I've got saber on, saber off, I've got trek close and trek open. So this is where the path is going to audio saber on. So this is how I load the sound into memory. Basically, this is where it's going to find it. Well, this is basically just saying this is where to find it. And then I have a function. So those variables, one is going to play the open saber function. So the open saber is what I call my element up here, open saber. So when it looks for that, when this function looks for the ID open saber, it's going to load the sound. Then the function called play audio saber is going to play that function. Now it's got a variable associated with it because that's going to need to be unique. So once I tested that out and make sure that worked, I just do it with one. I don't try to do everything, so I just do it with one. And once I had it work, then I basically just copy it, change the variable to y, so x, y, z, it could be any variable. Then I've got the close saber. I do the same thing. This is going to load the sound, or use the sound close saber, which I load up here, which is pointing to my saber over here. And then I have this function that has to be called when you push a button, or when you have push the button. So that is going to be a part of the code for opening and closing. So this function says open left menu. Notice that I add play audio saber. This calls the function down here, and then it actually plays the saber. So you're loading a sound, you're associating that sound with a function that just says play that sound, and then I say, well, don't play that sound until the door button is opened. So when the door button is opened by a button up here, when you actually press the button on click, it's going to say run this function, open left menu. When the open left menu command is run, it's going to go down here and say open left menu, and it's going to do this script, and then it's going to play that sound. And when it's all said and done, it looks something like this. So I've got a page. I wanted it to be kind of a surprise, so I just put some columns up here. Here's my left side, here's my right side. I colored them yellow. If I click on Star Wars, it brings up and when I close it, okay, so close. Okay, I hit the home key to start over. Star Trek. I got a sound for the door. I click on Star Trek. It brings up that thing. When I close it, it does their comlink sound. I could have done the door again, but the comlink sound was kind of cool too. So basically, if I was to look at this on the small scale, oops, I'll refresh. Here I am. It pulls up this page. I just got these here to kind of block for more of a shock value. Star Wars, it comes up, closes, Star Wars, Star Trek, close. So that is a lot of work to go through, but I learned a lot by doing it. I had to work through the code. I had to work one thing at a time. I had to actually learn to understand what was going on. And it is a slow process, and you learn it by burning it into your brain one little bit at a time.